maybe one of the most significant movie stories out there for the last couple of months has been the story of Jonathan Majors. Not because we care one dip of urine about, the TMZ nonsense stuff, but we're literally talking about the biggest movie franchise in the world and the character that's supposed to be the linchpin of the entire phase of this cinematic universe, and Kang the Conqueror being played by Jonathan Majors. Now, of course, we all know he got charged with assault. The trial has started. They did have certain things kept under court seal. Those seals have been removed. And now there is a real likelihood, with what's now become public, pardon me, that Jonathan Majors is going to be replaced. And I talked to a couple of people in the last 24 hours that seem to believe that as well. Before we get to that, though, let's actually look at what was revealed in court. And now, again, I don't care about court cases, but this has direct implications on the biggest movie franchise in the world and the direction their whole storyline is going. So it becomes relevant for our discussion. But of course, in the court case, Jonathan Majors that was under seal and then released text messages between him and his former girlfriend, and then a voice message released from him, and none of it paints Jonathan Majors in a very good light. This I'm going to read this at length, but this comes to us from the folks over at Forbes who wrote this. Things have now reached a point where it should be impossible for Disney to continue working with Majors in the wake of what's continually coming out about his behavior. This Friday, in his domestic violence case, text messages previously inadmissible, but now read to the jury in the case, reveal that Majors appears to be advising his girlfriend, accuser Grace Jabari, not to go to the hospital after he gave her a head injury, even if she lied about what happened. Quote, "I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation. Even if you do lie, they suspect something." And then Jabari, who could not get through reading her full messages without crying, and a prosecutor had to take over. "I will tell the doctor," this is from the girlfriend, "I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I go. I'm going to give it one more day, but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you?" He proceeds to tell her that he's a monster and threatens to kill himself, among other troubling texts. The audio recording sheds new light on the case and on the pair's relationship, as well as into Majors' high opinion of himself. "I am a great man, Major says at one point in the clip. "I am doing great things, not just for me, but for my culture and the world. That is actually the position I'm in." And then I accidentally pasted a thing in there at the end that I shouldn't have, because we already read that part.
I mean, he sounds like Kang.
Everything sounds good. I mean, listen, on face value, and let me say up front, there could be other interpretations. I'm just saying, on face value, what appears to be happening here is that Jonathan Majors gave his girlfriend a head injury and then tried to talk her out of going to the hospital, even though she was in incredible pain to the point that she couldn't sleep and needed stronger pain meds. He tried to talk her out of going to the hospital because it might look bad on him. And then reminding her that he's very important. That in that last thing about saying, "I'm doing great things, not just for me, but for my culture and the world." Basically, hey, if you go to the hospital, you could hurt the world. You could hurt the world if you let people know what happened. What is clear, at least to me, in my own interpretations of what I'm seeing, is that Jonathan Majors is a dick. Look, and it's somebody who needs medical attention, and you're trying to tell them, please don't go to the hospital. Don't seek the medical attention you need, because I'm afraid it's going to look bad on me. He's a dick. Professing himself to be a great man, and then had to repeat it, a great man. Listen, I don't know Jonathan Majors personally. Maybe he's not a dick in totality. And maybe it's true that all of us at one point or another, if you catch us at the wrong moment, all of us will look like a dick if you catch us at the right moment or the wrong moment, as the case may be. But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And listen, I'm also a person that somebody being a dick does not mean they shouldn't have their jobs. Listen, when I drink from this cup, I don't wonder, is the person who made my cup a good person? Or are they kind of an asshole? Because there's a difference between being an asshole and being a criminal. And while the text messages and the voicemails are damning, I do want to point out that they don't necessarily, the text messages don't say, don't worry, I won't tell the doctor you threw me against the wall and then punched me in the face. It doesn't say that. Maybe there's another interpretation. Maybe they're playing a vigorous game of Twister that went south. I don't know. I'm just saying on face value, it doesn't look great. I then spoke, because I've been home sick the last couple of days. So I've had a lot of time to watch One Piece and talk to people on the phone. I talked to two different producers, Hollywood producers. And both of them said to me, having one of them with direct connections to Marvel, said to me, they just don't see any way that Jonathan Majors is, after this, there's no way Jonathan Majors stays on as Kang. And it's not a matter about whether he's found innocent or guilty. It's a perception thing. That Disney, particularly Iger, is pretty protective of his family brand. Now, I also want to point out specifically, because I often get quoted out of context, that neither of these two producers I spoke to said, I talked to Bob Iger and they told me they're going to be kicking out Jonathan Majors. That didn't happen. I'm just saying that these producers I spoke to who have some connections there believe that after this, from what they understand of Marvel and how it operates and how it works, they believe there's really not a place or a way that they can imagine that Jonathan Majors is going to continue on as Kang, if they keep the Kang character at all. It also needs to be pointed out, and we need to do this with whenever there's a court case we're discussing, always presumed innocent until proven guilty. But this may not be a situation where a company may go, we don't want to be associated with you, whether or not you're found guilty. There's enough out there right now that we can't associate our brand with you. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, on the one hand, I don't feel that being a dick, if there's any requirements to you doing your job, that you're not a dick. A lot of people in the world are dicks. Maybe the people who made my computer are dicks. Guess what? I don't care. They made me a great computer. As long as they're not breaking laws, as long as they're not doing things. But I'll tell you what, when I read, where was that first one? Oh yeah, here it is. I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital, because I'm a great man. They will ask you questions. And as I don't think you will actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie. And they will suspect something. I mean, listen, that alone is going to make it very, very difficult for Marvel to continue working with him. It just is. It's not a matter about whether it should make it more difficult for them or shouldn't make it more difficult for them. We're not talking theoreticals. In reality, and you will all agree with this does make it more difficult for Marvel to continue working with them. I'm not saying whether they should or should not. I'm just saying the obvious. This makes it more difficult. This will make it that if they do continue working with them, they're going to face a lot of backlash and a lot of problems. And, you know, I think I agree with the writer of Forbes on this. I think we have probably seen the last of Jonathan Majors. Now, look, trial's not over. Maybe something will come out. Maybe we find out this girl has magical powers and she hallucinated Jonathan Majors into Texas. I don't know. Weirder things have happened in the world. Trial's not over yet. But as of right now, it does not look good. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, guys, it's Christmas time, and I don't know about your family, but mine always used to like giving a lot of gifts. And whether you like giving big, elaborate gifts or small, personal gifts, it's important not to forget to also give to yourself during this season, because the holidays are a great time to do that. So whether it's by starting therapy, going easier on yourself during the tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season too. And you know, I think we need to talk about this more. You know, we always encourage each other when we're talking about improving our physical health, you know, going to the gym and working out. We talk about it with each other. We encourage each other. Well, I believe it's time we start doing that when it comes to our mental health. Make sure we're taking care of ourselves by looking at our mental health too. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So guys, in the season of giving, give yourself
yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea.
Anyway, Chris, I think now we understand why Jonathan Majors' lawyers were trying to keep certain things sealed and certain things exempt from the trial, because this doesn't look good. But you read what we saw. You've heard what I've been told. What do you think about particularly the audio recording where he's calling himself a great man, all this kind of stuff? How do you feel about the stuff we read? And is he going to continue on? Can he continue on as Kang after this? How do you see it?
It's really up to the studios, and how honestly this court case shakes out. Because again, we've seen this with other celebrities of how messy domestic related issues have come to fruition and affected their casting, affected them being in projects and everything. There is also video footage that was released recently too. I know that was on CBS as well as New York Post and everything, showing a bit more of their interaction with Jabari allegedly drunk, showing Jonathan Majors pushing her back in the Cadillac and everything, them having a bit of a scuffle there as well. There's so many things going on with this. It's messy. It's just messy. And it has to be incredibly, incredibly difficult for everyone involved to have this on display. Wow. That being said, obviously domestic issues are very, very disturbing and should be dealt with in a very serious manner. There's just a lot going on here. Ooh, just like on our screen.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I don't even know what I did, but I'll try.
Can we not get the cameras back up?
Well, the cameras are up, but I don't know.
Yeah,
are you guys seeing something weird with this? Because my screen just blew up.
Yeah. Just let us know in the chat what's going on too there, guys. Yeah. A lot of what he was talking about in that voicemail as well, and I do not condone it. I just know contextually a lot of it was you need to behave like great women, like Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta, like all these other women, instead of behaving in this drunk manner. That being said, so much of that dialogue does seem very narcissistic, does seem very gaslighting, does seem very toxic. I'm not in this relationship, so it is hard to judge everything that's happening here.
Yeah, and everything, just real quick, everything's fine on our stream, so I'll just keep switching.
Oh, okay, great.
Until I figure out what's going on with my screen.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's just a real mess, and I think Marvel is probably going to look towards recasting, just because when something happens like this, where it is kind of up to the court of public opinion, even after the actual court decides on things, people are going to have their own opinions. We've seen this with Johnny Depp. We've seen this with Amber Heard. We've seen this with Ezra Miller, where there's camps for both sides of that person on whether they're right, wrong, guilty, not guilty. And I don't see Disney putting themselves in the position to have somebody front and center of their film who people are still deciding whether or not they're a good person or a bad person, a violent person, not just a good person, a violent person. So I do think everyone keep looking at the news, follow the court information, see what's happening, watch these videos too that have been released so you can make these decisions for yourself. But man, at the end of the day, it's just so messy. And I'm sorry, I'm not being more eloquent about that. It's just hard to have an actual finger on the pulse of this situation when we're still getting all of this news,
Yeah. And again, I know not everybody's going to like how I look at this. I don't really care if somebody's a good person or a bad person. I mean, in my life, I do, but I don't care whether the person who made Spoiler Pig is a good person or a bad person. All I care about is, will Spoiler Pig make that delightful noise whenever I squeeze him? I don't care whether the person who made my laptop is a good person or a bad person. I don't care if the person who made my jacket is a good person or a bad person. That shouldn't determine maybe it should determine who will have relationships with them in their life. It shouldn't determine what jobs they have or if they can do their job. It's different when that crosses a line into committing criminal acts. Yes. So for me, Jonathan Majors being a narcissist, I mean, I don't know, you're talking to your girlfriend and having to make her understand how great of a man you are. But being a narcissist and maybe a giant dick, to me, that doesn't change things for me about whether or not I can watch him as Kang.
I have a
whether
hard
or
time
not
with that
created,
stuff.
whether or not he committed criminal acts like assault. That's different. That's a difference thing. And again, we don't know it's come down to about whether or not he is actually guilty of that. But again, this type of stuff puts Disney in a very, very precarious position. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of turns out. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.